Hello everyone, welcome to QUTV Sports. I'm Cade Beaton.
And I am Ryan Riggs. We're here today to talk about sports on campus.
I'm Lucas Laudentine, and we'll also preview some spring sports just getting started in their seasons.
I'm John Jennings. Let's begin today with one of the biggest stories on campus, the women's soccer season.
Women's soccer has dominated the news this season. The team lost 10 games, tied 3, and won 4. The team had a lot of new women playing in unfamiliar positions. There was a major shift towards the end of the season, with an assistant coach resigning and several upperclassmen quitting the team. All seniors and fifth years did not continue in the program before their final season ended. A difference of opinion on senior night was the tipping point for most seniors on the team. Head coach Mackenzie Shizzle limited the fifth year and seniors playing time for senior night. Claire Macy was the only senior in the starting lineup and the only senior to see a full 90 minutes on the field. One player quit directly after the game. Another was terminated from the team after a senior night incident. 3 others quit the team for their own reasons. Just days after the upperclassmen quit, assistant coach Devlin Jeter resigned from the program. The team is divided over whether the turmoil is a coaching problem or an attitude issue within the upperclassmen. The team is slowly getting back on track to prepare for next fall.
The QU football program is currently 5-5 overall and 2-4 in conference play. That places them 5th out of 8 teams in the conference. The Hawks recently lost to McKendree was enough to eliminate the possibility of them representing the GLVC in the American Crossroads Bowl. However, the team has still had a very successful season in terms of creating a better direction for the program. This is the first time the Hawks have reached 5 wins since 2019. Should the Hawks win one of their final 2 games, that would give them their first winning season since 2014. The team is led by head coach Gary Bass. The offense has averaged 415 yards per game and has overall relied on a balance between both the run and the pass game. The pass game is led by grad transfer quarterback Drake Davis, who has thrown for 16 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions, and the leading receiver, redshirt senior Marlon Washington. Davis suffered an injury during the game against the University of Indianapolis. He did not finish the game and also sat out against McKendree, allowing redshirt sophomore Ike Wiley to make the start. The injury made the ground game that was already very good very more important for the Hawks. The rushing attack is headed primarily by the duo of J.Q. Brown and Jaden Washington, who are currently number 1 and 2 on the team in total touchdowns. The defense has also been a highlight through most of the year for the Hawks. The season has been influential for the direction of the program. The program has struggled over the last decade, especially since QU switched from NAIA to Division II. A successful season like this one can help to bring the new talent to replace the players who will be graduating. The roster is headed by a large number of upperclassmen. The Hawks are currently in line to lose their starting quarterback, leading receiver, and sack leader. They also have a large pool of juniors who they will have to find ways to replace following next season.
Quincy women's volleyball has started their season on fire. The Lady Hawks are 23-3 going into their last stretch of games. The Hawks were on a 20-game winning streak until this past weekend, where they dropped 2 games. The Hawks are sitting at 3rd in the GLVC standings behind a perfect UMSL team and the Lewis Flyers. Leading the Hawks is star outside hitter that grabbed a GLVC Player of the Week and a D2 Player of the Week, Emma Winbergen. Winbergen has registered 404 kills so far this season, leading the GLVC, alongside a 31 hitting percentage as well as 53 total blocks. The biggest question for the Hawks this year was filling the roles of the seniors leaving after the last season. They lost a lot of experience, but that has seemingly not been an issue. The freshmen have stepped up big. Erin Matsky, another standout freshman, is Susanna Beretta. The Hawks also brought in 2 graduate transfers for their 5th years. Luna Van Bars is an outside hitter, and Brianna Merkel is a setter who is 2nd in the GLVC for assists. The Hawks have 2 games left, all of them GLVC play. UIndy on November 11th, and the Lewis Flyers, who are currently 13th in the AVCA poll, to finish out the year at Pepsi Arena. Their senior night will be on November 11th.
This year, the GOVC has added a paywall to some QU sports on the streaming platforms, meaning fans have to pay to watch their team play. Previously, the GOVC had a free streaming platform that could be watched by anyone who had the stream URL. At Quincy University, NCAA football, women's volleyball, men's basketball, and women's basketball are behind the paywall. In recent years, baseball, women's volleyball, and soccer have gone behind a paywall, but only in the postseason. The GOVC calls it pay-per-view coverage. The GOVC also stated that championship coverage will be behind a paywall in all sports in the conference. This includes the conference tournament, regionals, and super regionals.
As many of you know, Quincy University has a high number of athletes on campus, with roughly 85% of the student body being a part of a sports team. QU has to accommodate the needs of all those athletes. Quincy University has attempted to take their weight rooms to the next level over the past 2 years. Both the Hawks Nest, which is the athletic weight room, and the HFC, which is available to all QU students, have seen significant improvements. In 2022, QU expanded the Hawks Nest. They added new squat machines, new glute raise machines, and a whole new turf area. Since then, the weight room has been much more organized for athletes due to more space and more possibilities in the workouts themselves. As of fall 2023, QU students and staff have also seen upgrades in the HFC. New equipment such as squat racks, new pull-up bars, and more free weights have been added to the weight room, opening new opportunities for those non-athletes on campus, as well as those from the community who use the HFC. So you guys are all athletes. How have you noticed the improvements in the weight room? Have they helped out?
Yeah, obviously, just something as simple as adding new strength coaches, new equipment. It's all been a huge shift in even the culture around the school. Everyone seems to be working a little bit harder with all the new equipment, and it's a really nice change to see.
You know, and after being here for 3 years, we've had a different schedule in the weight room every single year, and I think it's nice to kind of set, you know, a regular thing in the weight room with the 3 coaches that are in there, and you go in by teams. So
I think the 3 coaches is a big kind of changing point for, I think, most of the student athletes on campus. It's been great having coaches there to help you with workouts, your programs that we're all in, and just kind of getting a routine every single day.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you think it's helped with the football team that's really had a big season relative to what they've done the last couple of years. Have you guys been able to watch any games? How have you felt about watching them so far?
Yeah, I've watched a lot of the games so far. It's actually been really fun to watch this team. It's a very different team from past years. Obviously, they're working a lot harder as a team. They're playing way more gelled. Their defense has been unbelievable, and it's just been a really entertaining season opposed to the last couple of years.
I think it's really an important season for them too. I mean, this is the best season they've done since I've been here, and they've been really fun to watch.
I think that defense has been the standout point for the team so far. Holding teams underneath 300 yards is a big feat in college football, as it's primarily an offensive game. And kind of going along with that offense has really been clicking so far. Unfortunately, Drake Davis went down with a knee injury a couple games ago, and so the offense has kind of fallen off in the passing game. But they're still putting together that run game, running the ball very successfully, and like you guys said, having a good overall year. It's a lot of fun to watch them.
Yeah, obviously you guys know the story of the crazy women's volleyball team we had last year. It was so successful. What do you think the women's team has done this year to stay competitive?
Well, I mean, bringing in a new transfer, Luna Van Bars, has helped out a lot. I mean, they've also had very good freshmen that have stood out and have stepped up to help the team. And they're still on it. They had a 20-game win streak to start their season, which beat their last year's win streak of, 16 games. So I think they've started a good team. Yeah.
They've really come in, and they had a lot of firsts last year that, losing most of those seniors, you're kind of like, all right, they're going to have a down year. The freshmen are going to come in. They're going to have a learning curve like most freshmen do. And then from there, they're going to be able to excel in the next couple of years. But the freshmen have come in. One that you noted, Aaron Metzke, has been playing really well as a center blocker for them. And then a bunch of other freshmen have backed her really well. I think on the court at most times they have 4 freshmen and only 2 upperclassmen, sometimes 3 and 3. But to have that youth on that team being so successful now, I can only imagine what's going to happen in a couple of years.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, Ryan, you took pretty much everything I was thinking. You had two fifth-year transfers. I mean, I don't think it's unreasonable to expect that the team might take a step back, especially from as good as they were last year. But yeah, to come out as hot as they have, and I mean, just be setting records. It's really exciting for the next couple of years that you're going to see this kind of young core just mature and get even better.
Absolutely. Coming up next, we'll talk about sprint football, spring sports, and why practice times for some teams is so early in the morning.
Welcome back. QU has many sports that participate in practice during the fall. This is becoming a problem with practice times. Throughout the day, coaches can only practice during specific times because of classes from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. The first team to practice at the Rock is women's lacrosse from 6 to 8 in the morning, followed by NCAA football practicing at the Rock from 3:30 until 5:30. Sprint football practices from 6 until 8:15, leaving the men's lacrosse team to practice from 8:30 until 10:30. One of the solutions would be to move sprint football to the morning, leaving both lacrosse teams available to start and end their practices while the other team is on the field.
The Quincy Sprint football team is in its second year of competition. The Hawks are 5-2 on the year after their impressive win over Bellarmine University. The Hawks have had a couple of quarterbacks at the helm. Deuce Alloway, a freshman, has stepped up and thrown for almost 500 yards on the season, and Nick Manso, who's a sophomore. The running game has been the key to the Hawks' offense. Chance Newton is one of those standout running backs. Alongside Newton is Trayvon Hagler-Wright and A.J. Jackson. The heart and soul for the Hawks is their defense, headed by Ray Lingard. The Defensive Player of the Year a year ago has 42 tackles on the year and 3 fumble recoveries, taking one all the way back to the house for a score. He has 9 pass breakups on the year as well. The Hawks finished their regular season and will now play in the MWSFL playoff. Their opponent is St. Mary of the Woods College.
The QU men's soccer team finished with an overall record of 5-10-2. This is better than their 3-11-3 record last year. They did not make the GLVC tournament as they finished tied for 9th and just 1 point away from making it in. Down the stretch, the Hawks played some of their best soccer. They had their biggest weekend by getting 6 points with 2 wins over both Rockhurst and William Jewell. They only needed 1 win the following weekend to get them into the tournament. However, they dropped 2 games in the last weekend and fell just short. The future looks bright for the Hawks as they only graduated 3 seniors and only 1 senior started every game this year. They also started 5 freshmen this year and played many other underclassmen. The player to look out for on the Hawks team for years to come is goalkeeper George Roque, as he had an incredible season as a freshman.
Quincy women's lacrosse team was off and running this fall, and running they did. The Hawks played 10 total games, finishing with 3 wins, 4 losses, and 2 ties. Depth has always been a problem for the Hawks. They run out of gas with a short bench. But with 7 incoming freshmen and 2 transfers, Coach Kathleen Kim will now have far more players to work with depth. With depth comes a level of competitiveness that Captain Kara Wilhelm has never seen before. Wilhelm says there are a bunch of women who really want to win. She says there are 8 players who have been at QU since the very beginning. So Kara says there is no more time to mess around. We want to win now. The women's lacrosse team put in the work this fall than some would imagine. They woke up at 5 to get to a 6 a.m. practice, had an hour break, then headed straight to lift at 9 until 10 a.m. Before most students on campus started their day, the women's lacrosse team has already had a full practice and team lift. Wilhelm says that although the practice and lifts were early this year, the players brought the intensity and attention to detail that is needed to win in the GLVC. The team starts the 2023 season off with a major upset over number 24 Davenport Panthers last season. The magic fizzled out as the women ended up finishing with a 6-11 record, but if they can keep the same intensity, they will be in excellent shape coming springtime. Looking out for fifth-year starter Danielle Robinson to lead the Hawks offensively and graduate student Kelly McClure to backstop and power the Hawks defense. Fall is such a big time in spring for those teams that are out of season to kind of get your initial practices in and start to kind of get that team camaraderie. What's so big about those out-of-season practices?
Yeah, I think fall is one of the most underrated times for lacrosse teams especially. You only get a certain amount of time where you get to really work on your craft in the fall to prepare for springtime. Obviously, as lacrosse players, we know how tough that can be and how you need to really prepare for that springtime because it comes fast, man. It comes quick at you.
Well said, kid.
It does. Lucas, what about baseball?
I was gonna say, I think the biggest thing for baseball is just, in the winter, between the weather, you just can't go outside. And so when you're inside, you can still do some basic stuff, but you're really limited on what you're able to work on. So fall is when you're able to, kind of get the best work in, get like the, largest range of things accomplished. And so that's why it can be really pivotal to preparing for a spring.
Yeah, for sure. So practice times, I know, Lucas, for you, it's not as big of an issue because you have your own baseball field and then you have another hitting cage. But does working around your schedule kind of become an issue or a conflict?
It certainly can, especially, but the baseball coaches are all really good about, we'll, at the start of the fall, we'll, kind of send in your class schedule and they'll send out more individual times, centered around making sure you have time to go to everything. So, obviously some guys, if you're busy all day, one day with class, it's going to be tough to make that work. But the coaches are also really understanding and really try to help guys work around all these problems.
Good.
Yeah, how has the practice times affected you, Ryan?
I think for us, because we're practicing from 8 to 10 or 8:30 to 10:30 at night, it leaves a really weird dead period before practice. And then once you get into practice, the adrenaline's still running, even though it's not a game situation. You're still intense. You're still, using a lot of energy, and it's kind of tough to fall asleep after that. Like, I found myself not being able to fall asleep until 2 a.m. Just because I'm still so hyped up from practice that I only get about 3-4 hours of sleep before I got to wake up and do it again.
Agreed. My sleeping schedule has not been so good this semester, or not as good as I hope or wish it was, but we work our way around that.
Yeah, so obviously we talked about sprint football a little bit. What has been the keys to their successful season, do you think, Ryan?
Well, the game against Bellarmine a couple days ago was a big sign of the up and up for the sprint football team. They played their first overall, just complete game. Their special teams played phenomenally. They were able to flip the field when they weren't able to get first downs. Their defense played great. They stopped the Bellarmine run game, which is first in the conference for them. And then the offense was able to put a lot of pieces together using 3 different running backs and just kind of able to assert their dominance at the line of scrimmage. And because of that, they were able to get a pretty dominant win over a really good football team.
The women's golf team opened up the season at the Jury Invitational, finishing 13th out of 16 teams at the Kansas City Cup. The women finished in the middle of the pack, placing 6th. They then followed it, getting 6th in the Flyer Intercollegiate Invite. The Hawks finished 4th out of 8 teams in a competition at the McKendree Dual Gender Tournament. The women wrapped up the season at the Bill Crabtree Invite, finishing 10th out of 15 teams, shooting a .653.
Senior Natalie Deerwester had a good fall turnout. She played in every tournament and finished first on the team 2 times. Lily Vardaman led QU with the lowest finish this season as a Hawk. She captured a top 10, placing 7th at the McKendree Dual Gender Tournament.
The Quincy University men's golf team played in 5 tournaments this fall season. starting it off in Madison, Illinois, where they finished 13th as a team. Next up, they played in the Kansas City Cup, where they finished in 4th. Then they played their third tournament in St. Albans Country Club, and then to wrap up the season, they got a team win at the Culver Invite. They finished in 7th at the Bearcat Duel tournament. The two leading scorers for the Hawks are Patrick Ringwald with multiple top finishes for the Hawks and Griffin Taylor getting a win at the Culver Invite. It should be exciting to see what these two men and the Hawks golf team can do in their upcoming spring season.
Spring athletics season is almost here, and that means it's time to look at the exciting season of spring sports. From baseball to lacrosse to swimming, QU student athletes have been giving it their all in their off-season and are ready to start their seasons. So let's preview Quincy University spring sports. The baseball team is led by third-year head coach Matt Shizzle. The Hawks are coming off a great year last year. They won the GLVC championship and made it all the way to the NCAA Midwest Super Regional, but ultimately came up short against the University of Indianapolis. They hope to have some revenge and make it to the D2 World Series this season. The softball team is led by head coach Kathy Monroe. She will be entering her second season with the Hawks. The Hawks ended their season last year with a record of 22-22 and unfortunately did not make it to the GLVC tournament. The Hawks look to make it to the tournament this year with a very young but athletic team. The men's lacrosse team is led by head coach Eric Ruppel. The Hawks ended last year with a record of 8-10. The men's track and field team is led by head coach Chris Ashman. The team values really showed last season, and they hope to do that this year too.
Thank you for joining us on QUTV Sports.
Stay tuned to the GLVC Sports Network for coverage of the league's spring sports.
You can find more stories on QUmedia.net.
For all of us here on the GLVC reporting team, have a great day.